It started with a silence. Not the kind of silence you expect from a royal interview, not the polished pause, not the carefully measured hesitation. This was different. Prince Harry sat across from the interviewer, staring down for what felt like forever, his fingers clenched so tightly they turned white. And then he said something no one expected. Not because of what he said, but because of what it seemed to confirm. For years, rumours had followed the Duke and Duchess of Sussex like shadows. Questions, speculation, strange timelines, unexplained details. Most people dismissed it as internet noise. Until now. Because what Harry admitted at 41 has reopened one of the most controversial conversations the royal family has faced in years. And the deeper people looked, the stranger it got. How did this begin? Why are old interviews suddenly being dissected frame by frame? And why are some claiming the palace may have known far more than it ever admitted? To understand why this moment matters, you have to go back. Back to 2018. The world was watching as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle stood at St. George's Chapel in Windsor, beginning what looked like a fairy tale chapter. A royal rebel and an American actress. A modern love story. At least that's how it was presented. But almost immediately, the pressure was unbearable. Every move examined. Every statement challenged. Then in 2019 came Archie Harrison. The announcement was celebrated worldwide. Yet almost instantly there were questions. Not about the child himself, but about the unusual secrecy surrounding the birth. The hospital details felt vague. The timeline shifted. Royal watchers noticed inconsistencies in official communications. Some brushed it off as privacy. Others weren't convinced. Then came 2021. Lilibet Diana was born in California. Again, the couple controlled every detail tightly. No public hospital appearance. No traditional photos. No immediate confirmations. And once again, questions grew louder. But here where things start to turn. For years, Harry and Meghan fought relentlessly for privacy, even as they built media empires, gave explosive interviews and released documentaries. That contradiction alone fueled endless speculation. But it wasn't until recently that something changed. A private conversation. One that reportedly took place far away from cameras. Sources close to Harry claim he had been under immense emotional pressure. The strain of fractured family ties. The burden of public scrutiny. And ongoing legal battles. But during that conversation, one sentence stood out. A sentence vague enough to avoid specifics, yet powerful enough to send shockwaves. According to insiders, Harry allegedly said, "There are truths people have suspected for years, and one day they'll understand why everything was done the way it was." That's it. No names. No details. But online it exploded. Because to many it sounded like confirmation. Not proof, but enough to reignite every theory. And then, investigative bloggers began pulling up old footage. Pregnancy appearances. Body language clips. Moments where Meghan's baby bump appeared to shift unnaturally. Interviews where dates seemed inconsistent. Again, none of it definitive. But enough to deepen the mystery. Then came the mid-script twist no one saw coming. A former royal staffer, someone who had stayed silent for years, reportedly hinted that alternative arrangements had been discussed privately before Archie's birth. That phrase changed everything. What did alternative arrangements mean? Surrogacy. Medical complications. A private family agreement. No one knew. And the palace refused to comment. That silence only made it louder. Because now this wasn't just gossip. It became about transparency. About image. About what the public had been told. And what they hadn't. Then another layer surfaced. Back in Harry's memoir, Spare, certain passages about Archie's birth were heavily scrutinized. Readers noticed details that some medical experts questioned. Descriptions that seemed emotionally vivid, but medically unusual. That reopened debate all over again. Was Harry writing from memory, or from a version of events carefully constructed over time? And here's what makes this even more unsettling. If any part of these rumors were true, even partially, it wouldn't necessarily mean wrongdoing. Surrogacy itself isn't scandalous. But in royal tradition, it changes everything. Questions of succession, public disclosure, legal implications, royal legitimacy. Suddenly, this wasn't about family gossip anymore. It was constitutional. And perhaps that's why every institution involved remains so careful, so guarded, so silent. But Harry's recent words, whether intentional or not, have cracked open a door many thought was permanently sealed. And people are looking inside. Hard. Meanwhile, Meghan has said nothing. No denials. No clarifications. Just silence. And in today's media landscape, silence is rarely empty. It creates space for theories, for investigations, for doubt. And maybe that's the real story here. Not whether Meghan is or isn't the biological mother of Archie and Lilibet. Because as of now, there is no verified evidence supporting that claim. None. But the fact that millions are still asking the question after all these years, that says something. About trust, about image, and about how fragile public narratives can become when too many pieces don't seem to fit. So now the question is what Harry admitted. It's why he chose those words. And whether one day he'll say the part he left out.